So, picture this. A quiet room, cameras off, voices low, and suddenly Meghan Markle's mother, Doria Ragland, drops a sentence so soft, so chilling, that everyone present freezes. "I've never really seen them." She meant Archie and Lilibet, her own grandchildren. That one whisper, boom, it hits like thunder. Because wait, what? The grandmother, who should have been there for birthdays, Christmas mornings, tiny giggles, and bedtime stories, had never really seen them? The air turned cold. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If even Doria hadn't been around those children, then who had? And that's where this wild story really begins. A while after that chilling confession, a quiet woman, a nanny actually, came forward. She had worked inside Meghan and Harry's home, the kind of insider no one ever talks about. Her voice was disguised when she finally spoke, but her words, they cut like glass. She didn't sound like someone seeking fame, no drama, no scandalous flair. She sounded like someone who had seen too much, or maybe hadn't seen what everyone expected her to see. The house, she said, didn't feel alive. It didn't feel like a home with children. It felt like a movie set. Every room was spotless, but too spotless. Every cushion was perfectly fluffed, every corner gleaming. Yet something was missing. There were no giggles, no toys, no little shoes left by the door, no half-eaten snacks on the counter, nothing, just silence. At first, Meghan was around often, 3 or 4 times a week, but she was never alone. There was always someone following her. A friend here, a blonde assistant there, sometimes even a full camera crew. She'd breeze in, phone in hand, multitasking like a boss, calling, giving directions, checking her reflection in every shiny surface. To the staff, it didn't feel like working in a home, it felt like they were extras on a TV show. And as weeks turned into months, Meghan started showing up less. Twice a week maybe, sometimes less. And when she did, it was like watching a performance. Every movement rehearsed, every word measured. It was then the nanny realized something truly unsettling. "This isn't a family home," she said quietly. "This is a set." Then one evening, the illusion cracked. The nanny was in the kitchen when she heard shouting, sharp, angry, echoing through the walls. She hurried to the hallway and froze. Harry was holding Meghan's arms, pleading with her to stop. She was furious, her voice slicing through the air. Marcus Anderson, Meghan's longtime friend, stepped in, pulling her back as Harry slumped into a chair. He wasn't yelling back, he wasn't even fighting. He just looked broken. The maid said she handed him a glass of water and he whispered, "Thank you." And in that whisper, she saw it, the sadness of a man who used to be the proud Prince of Britain, now trapped in a house that didn't feel like his own. After that night, things changed. The smiles disappeared, the house grew colder, the cameras stayed, but the warmth was gone. And that's when the staff began to wonder. Maybe it wasn't just the marriage that was staged. Maybe the whole family was. Months passed. The nanny had worked endless 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week. She saw Meghan almost daily in the beginning, but then twice a week at most. And through all of it, she said she never, ever saw Meghan pregnant. No baby bump, no morning sickness, no late-night cravings, nothing. The staff whispered among themselves, "Did you notice anything?" "Nothing," came the quiet reply. Yet the world was seeing glossy magazine covers, Meghan glowing, holding her belly, smiling in couture gowns. The nanny said she couldn't believe her eyes. "It didn't match the woman I saw," she confessed. "Not once did I see her pregnant. Not with Archie, not with Lilibet. People would call her crazy, she knew that, but she didn't care. If I lie now, the truth will still come out later," she said calmly, "and then I'll be called a liar anyway." There was no rage in her words, no theatrics, just a calm, eerie certainty. Something about those pregnancies didn't add up. Weeks turned into months, and the silence in that grand Montecito mansion grew louder. The nanny said it haunted her, that stillness. She had worked in homes with kids before. She knew what a real family sounded like. There was always laughter, footsteps running down the hall, a toy rolling under the couch, a random cry followed by a soft shh from a tired parent. But in Harry and Meghan's home, nothing. No giggles, no toys, no baby cries echoing through the walls. Just spotless rooms and the faint buzz of expensive silence. "I would clean for 12 hours a day," she said, 5 days a week. "I came before sunrise and left after dark, but I never saw them. Not once." She said she even started to question herself. Maybe the kids were sleeping when she was there. Maybe they were with someone else. But that theory fell apart quickly. There were no toys, no strollers, no bottles, no tiny shoes anywhere in sight. A real home with children always left traces. Fingerprints on the windows, spilled juice on the counter, little socks in the laundry basket. But this house? It was immaculate. Too immaculate. Like a hotel waiting for guests that never arrived. The staff who never spoke. One afternoon, she whispered to another staff member, "Do you ever see the children?" The woman froze, then shook her head. Never. That one word, never, echoed in her head like a curse. It didn't make sense. The world outside saw Archie and Lilibet as the center of Meghan and Harry's new life. But the people working inside that house, they couldn't find a trace of them. The nanny said sometimes, late at night, she'd stop in the middle of cleaning just to listen. She'd hold her breath, waiting for a cry, a laugh, something, but all she heard was the hum of the air conditioner and the ticking of a clock. And that silence, that thick, unshakable silence, made her stomach twist. Where are the children? She began to wonder. And once that question entered her mind, it never left. Then came the Netflix documentary, the grand, emotional, carefully polished documentary that Meghan and Harry promised would show their truth. The world saw it and gasped. There was Meghan, glowing and pregnant, walking barefoot through a sunny garden, Harry laughing beside her. The camera panned across a beautiful home, their kids giggling in the background, the image of a perfect family. But the nanny, sitting alone in her small apartment, watched it with her hands shaking. "The house in that video wasn't the house I worked in," she said flatly. "The walls, the layout, the windows, all wrong. Even the garden looked different. She knew every inch of that mansion, the shape of the hallway, the color of the tiles, how the light hit the kitchen at 4 p.m., and what she saw on Netflix, that wasn't it. It looked like a studio," she whispered, "or maybe a rented home made to look like theirs." The realization made her stomach drop. If the setting was fake, what else was? It all began to make sense. The confiscated phones, the bag searches, the strict, almost paranoid rules. Every morning before stepping inside the gates, the staff had to hand over their phones. Security guards checked their pockets, even their lunch bags. No photos, no texting, no talking about work outside. "It felt like entering a fortress," the nanny said, "not to protect them, but to protect a secret." She remembered one afternoon when another worker took a harmless picture, just of the flowers near the front door. Within minutes, a guard stormed in, snatched her phone, and deleted the photo. The tension after that was suffocating. That's when the nanny realized this wasn't about privacy, it was about control. They weren't protecting a family, she said quietly. They were protecting a story. And then there was that famous Oprah interview. The one where Meghan and Harry sat in a garden with chickens clucking softly behind them, painting a picture of peace and simple country life. The world fell in love with that image. "See," people said, "they're just like us." But the nanny had seen that same chicken coop countless times. She'd cleaned around it, watched Meghan walk out there in her designer boots, feeding hens while someone filmed her from a distance. And then there was that famous Oprah interview. The one where Meghan and Harry sat in a garden with chickens clucking softly behind them, painting a picture of peace and simple country life. The world fell in love with that image. "See," people said, "they're just like us." But the nanny had seen that same chicken coop countless times. She'd cleaned around it, watched Meghan walk out there in her designer boots, feeding hens while someone filmed her from a distance. But there was one thing missing, always missing. "The kids," she said. "I never once saw the kids out there." To her, that chicken coop wasn't a family moment, it was a prop. Another beautiful background for another carefully crafted story. And as she watched Oprah smile and Meghan laugh for the cameras, the nanny said she felt her heart sink. It looked warm, it looked real, but it wasn't the laughter, the calm, the perfect family energy. All of it was a scene, a brand. That night she realized she wasn't crazy. The silence in the house, the secrecy, the missing children, it all connected. The world was watching a fairy tale. But behind those high gates in Montecito was something much darker. The nanny never wanted fame. She never wanted trouble. She just wanted peace. But the silence of that house followed her everywhere. "I can't carry it anymore," she finally said in her interview, her voice trembling. "I won't say Meghan was pregnant when she wasn't. I won't lie. And I never saw those children." Not once her words weren't angry. They were calm, heartbreaking. The kind of truth that chills you because it feels too real. 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, she saw everything. The lights, the shouting, the cameras, the emptiness. But never Archie, never Lilibet. And now, even Meghan's mother had whispered the same haunting words. "I never see them." The public saw the smiling couple, the perfect garden, the glowing mother. But the people inside those walls saw only silence, a silence too heavy to ignore. So now, as the glossy images fade and the whispers grow louder, one question remains. If the people closest to them, the staff, the friends, the grandmother, never saw those children, then where were Archie and Lilibet? That's the question no photo, no documentary, and no royal PR spin can ever erase.